trouble, it's not my fault. All this, I also lose my friends, I lost my baby. That is looking crack, only today want to change. He wanted us, so they couldn't try more like to feel. I'd kill the grill, take your life in a second. The table drinks coffee in my kitchen, I mentioned eating every song, I just wanted to go away. You decide to stay in the well. I want to be forgiven, I don't like this kid for money. Sorry I was scared, you're not the way it feels. Like to sleep waiting for someone to come in and kill you. The final thing is that now we're not afraid of anything. Cause they're gonna kill anyone that feels so powerful. They try by you every your skin of everything is confusing. You will be good but you will be more. You will be good but you will be more. You will be good but you will be more. Alone every day it is a praise of pleasure.
Good morning and welcome to Dynasty 365, where the film will set you free. I just spent the last hour and 40 minutes breaking down these wide receivers on my computer's microphone instead of my actual microphone, so I'm an idiot. But I promised you guys my tier 1 wide receivers, so you're going to get them again. First up is Parris Campbell out of Ohio State. He is 71.875 inches tall, so barely under 6 foot tall, 205 pounds with 9.5 inch hands, a 75.625 inch wingspan, and is 23.18 years old, which is a little old for this class. He's got a slightly above average weight divided by height, span divided by height, and hand size divided by height. Parris tore up the combine running a 4.3140, above average 40 inch vert, above average 135 inch broad jump, below average 11 reps on the bench, didn't do the 3-cone, and a highly above average 20-yard shuttle at 4.03 seconds. The first game scouted was against Washington. Was wide ass open and Haskins missed him. Did a good job making the defender slide off of him and had a great burst after that contact. So making the defender slide off of him is a trait that he shares with Alvin Kamara, if you're wondering what that means. People seem to just bounce off of Kamara because he dead fishes them and lets half of his body go limp so that their momentum redirects instead of impacting his body. I think he's going to have above average to great acceleration. Just false started but got upfield in a hurry. I think his athletic testing is going to be pretty insane. So 5 plays in on the first game, and I'm already predicting that he's going to have some great athletic measurables, which he did. Takes a false step on his get-off, seems to round his routes, got hit pretty good by the DB off of the line during press man, but he still continued his route, didn't let it affect him, or his route path. So this is a trait that not many college wide receivers have. They're not good when guys get physical with them. One, because most corners aren't physically capable of playing press man in a college defense due to the scheme's reliance on athletic and technically sound cornerbacks. That's why you see it far more often and far more effectively used in the NFL. But when it does happen, they're not used to that level of physicality, so they get pushed left or right. They don't fight back into it to try to stay on the route path, but Campbell does. Caught a low throw on a bubble screen. While he doesn't run great routes, he shows the athleticism to change direction quickly, even when he rounds his routes. Shows the intelligence to sit down in a soft spot in the zone when running a long over. That's something I'm pretty excited about. So a long over is similar to a drag. If you know what that is, the wide receiver just kind of curves and stays within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. If you took a drag route and you just angled it about 50 degrees and made that curve a little more pronounced, the receiver's essentially running a banana shape from the far right sideline over to the left sideline at about 20 yards down the field. So instead of running that route, he found a soft spot and he sat it down and came back to the quarterback to present a target. That shows a high level of awareness to know that he can break off that route and help out his quarterback. So far he's shown really sure hands and good technique catching away from the body with his hands. Body catch on a crossing route, but he still caught it. Doesn't seem very willing to block. The ball was running right at him and he just got out of the way. Against Michigan. While he doesn't have great technique, he does have the athleticism and acceleration and agility to run great routes. This should improve with proper coaching at the next level. I will probably be higher on him than most. So at the time, Parris Campbell was not being mentioned very much and was pretty far down a lot of people's boards. And then the combine happened, so now he's going in the late first, early second, which I think is a fair price for him. If it's a non-superflex and Metcalf and DK and Fantergon, I'd have no problem taking Parris Campbell around the end of the first. Dropped a high throw when he knew he was going to get hit. Not a good blocker, just got sidestepped and didn't even try to get in his way. I think he has good long speed, above average, but probably not elite. Well, 4.31 is pretty close to elite, so let's see if I changed my prediction there. Good to great open field vision. The acceleration might be nearly elite, but I still think Isabella has better agility and stop-start. Alright, he might have elite speed. He just outran the safety to the edge. They were 3 yards apart the whole way, and then Campbell turned on the jets and threw up the deuces sign. Just ran a really good route to toast the corner on a vertical to in to corner concept. So that means he started out like he was going to run a fly, broke in, and then snapped back to the corner. That's a 3-break route and a good thing to see on a guy that people say can't run routes right now. He was really good at picking a direction and going that direction to set up his final route. Next, I watched his Indiana highlights. He does run good to great routes. I would lean more to good than great. He has NFL level agility for sure, for show. I would have liked to see him work towards the sidelines harder. It would have given him a better angle on the closing defender and allowed him to get probably 6 more yards, but again, that's coachable in the NFL. I don't think he'll have an immediate impact, but by year 2 or 3 will be very good and explosive. Again, he finds the soft spot in the zone. Could be improved by working back to the quarterback more, but he still made the initial tackle or miss. He does have pretty great acceleration. Great hands catch that was high and out in front of him without breaking stride, and then outran the safety or linebacker to the end zone. Showed a nice 90-degree outcut, caught the ball through contact, but again he should have sat it down a little sooner. So one thing that he doesn't quite know how to do yet, even though he can find the soft spot in the zone, is when he's running crossing routes, especially these quick out routes, he doesn't have to keep working to the sideline when there's a defender out there in that zone. He can take just a couple steps and split the difference between the defender zone he left and the defender he's coming to have a higher probability of catching that ball, turning upfield, and getting a few extra yards. So that is something that is easily improved in my opinion, and with his awareness in finding the soft spot in the zone, I think will change in the NFL level. Next note is, I know it's nitpicky, but that's actually a good thing because those are fixable things with NFL coaching. Showed good awareness of where the first down marker was. The last Campbell film I watched were his highlights against Tulane. Again, shows the ability to slip off of tackles that it doesn't seem like he should be able to, very similar to Kamara's running style. He does actually run pretty good routes. Fake jab step out and then straight vertical, and he didn't plant, but he still made a pretty good 90-degree turn to the inside and outran the defender to the spot. So much so that the defender fell down diving. That's again a 3-break route where he still has the football IQ and route running savvy to sell the second break effectively. So when people say he can't run routes or he's only used short, he's never going to be able to catch deep balls, I believe he's going to learn how to get open deep a lot more in the NFL than what Ohio State asked him to do. He bobbled the deep go route, but still made the catch. It was a little worrisome. There have been a couple of times that he's bobbled it, but I really don't think I've seen him drop a single pass yet. Dude has great agility and on-field awareness and threatened the defenders with his speed even when standing still. That is a great sign. If you listen to the Metcalf 101 episode, we talked about how similar to Tyreek Hill, Metcalf can stand still, and the defender is so scared of his first step and his agility that he freezes and waits for other defenders to come help him. Campbell does the same thing. Not quite as often as Hardman, and he's doing it in the Big Ten instead of the SEC, but you can tell people are scared of his athleticism in the open field. For college, he's a pretty good route runner, but I've just been spoiled by watching Ridley and Isabella back to back. So by now we know that Parris Campbell was picked by the Colts and he's going to be catching passes from Andrew Luck. And we also know they've got T.Y. Hilton there, Eric Ebron, and then kind of a mishmash of Funchess, Jack Doyle, and Nyheim Hines, and even Marlon Mack will probably get a little work in the receiving game. So Campbell is probably going to be used in year one, but there's not really a huge piece of the pie waiting for him there. I do think he'll be usable, but he's not a complete wide receiver receiver yet. He shows enough traits on film for me to project that he's going to be able to learn how to become a plus route runner in the NFL. Obviously, it's a great thing to be a receiver for Andrew Luck, but we do have to remember that shoulder injury and how it changed Luck's style of play. That could be a good thing for Campbell if they keep using him short, and Luck is a very smart quarterback. But I do think Campbell's going to be someone that's going to take a couple years before he really starts to be fantasy startable week in and week out. Next up is Kelvin Harmon out of North Carolina State. He is 74.5 inches tall, or 6 foot 2.5, 221 pounds with 9.5 inch hands and a 75.5 inch wingspan. He is 21.41 years old, which is on the younger end of this class, but I did hear some rumors that he is older than when I entered his birth date in here, but I haven't looked into that too heavily, but just know that age could be incorrect. He's got an above average weight divided by height, below average span divided by height, average hand divided by height, and his combine was a little underwhelming. Harmon ran a below average 4.640, below average 32.5 inch vertical, below average 117 inch broad jump, above average 18 reps on the bench, with an average 7.15 3-cone drill and 4.32 20-yard shuttle. Now, Kelvin Harmon is a classic example of people overrating the combine. He really only had 2 drills that were more below average than middle of the pack, and that was the vertical and the broad jump. Now, both are important, but even then they weren't that bad relative to the pack. The 4.640 was slightly below average. The 3-cone and 20-yard shuttles were fine. I would have liked to see a better 20-yard shuttle, but they don't worry me. And 18 reps on the bench is more than respectable. Harmon went from going in the top 5 of rookie drafts to a round or 2 later based only on 6 measurements taken on a specific day instead of the film that everyone watched where he showed what traits he has there. So that's just kind of my mini rant about Harmon, but he is a classic player that I like to target later in my rookie drafts. We've talked about how early in round 1, I want safe players, year 1 production with long-term upside. Now Harmon has concerning physical measurements, as in athletic measurements, and draft capital by being taken in the 6th round. This is causing him to drop insanely low in rookie drafts in my opinion. Because of recency bias and the appeal to authority bias, everyone thinks that there's no chance that Kelvin Harmon is a good receiver because the NFL draft said so. Yet historically, the NFL draft is wrong all the time. There are always exceptions to the rule. And in my experience, it's those players that had great film but underwhelming athletic measurements that got drafted to a good situation. Like maybe, I don't know, a wide receiver depth chart with no proven receivers. But anyways, after that rant, you're probably going to hear me rant a lot more. I went off the rails in the recording earlier that no one's ever going to hear because I did it with the wrong microphone. So first game watched was Boston College. 1 play in and he's a better blocker than A.J. Brown. Showed physicality through the jam, came back to the ball to make a really tough catch through contact. Shows effort to block downfield throughout the play. Shows physicality through the jam and the catch point once again. Great sideline awareness, would have been an NFL catch. So just a pause for a second. We've seen him give great effort blocking. We've seen him show physicality through cornerbacks, which most college receivers don't show. We've seen him make really tough catches through contact multiple times. And he's already getting 2 feet in bounds on tough sideline catches. Blocks through the whistle. Can stack and separate once he's past the defensive back. So, stacking and separate. Stacking the DB is very similar to shielding the defender from the football at the catch point, where your body is in between where the ball is and where the defensive back is. So Friday we talked about Dylan Mitchell and how he'll be wide ass open, but he doesn't know how to prevent the defensive back from getting back in on the play. Well, Harmon does. When he beats that guy with a head fake or good route running or physicality, he puts his body straight in front of the defensive back's path so that there's not a chance that he can get back to where the catch point will be. And separate is a huge part of stack and separate. Harmon is getting knocked so hard for lack of separation when on film I see him get more separation than A.J. Brown does. So I don't really get it. I don't really get that knock on him because he shows the ability time and time again to prevent the defender from getting back on the ball after he's beaten him, and then he can separate. Not scared of the safety's hit, great double move, good acceleration, good top end speed, great body control. Hands catcher away from his body. Already like him much better than A.J. Brown. So when I just reread those notes back to myself, if I could give a comp just off that game, would be a poor man's Mike Williams. Now Mike Williams is 6'4", I believe, and is a big guy. And it's taken him a little while to come on because he's had Keenan Allen and some other pretty good receivers around him. And this is probably going to turn into pretty much a Kelvin Harmon situational analysis, but there's no Keenan Allen in Washington. The next game watched was against Syracuse. Great contested catch on a slant. There's no one on Washington who can do that. I would have liked to see him explode out of his break more to the inside on that slant. So he does have some flaws. He's not perfect. I'm not going overboard and crazy on my love of Kelvin Harmon's film. That's just what's on film. Nice active feet on his release during tight coverage. I think he's going to have good agility testing. So he didn't have amazing agility testing, but a 7.15 3-cone is decent, and I believe it was a 4.3 or 4.29 20-yard shuttle. I'd like to see that faster, but they're not horrible. Everyone is acting like he had the worst combine a wide receiver's ever had, and all he did was have an average to maybe below average combine for a 220-plus pound receiver. Takes a false step on his release. That is an easy coaching point to fix. So Kelvin Harmon doesn't even have all the technical aspects down yet, but that false step being eliminated will be a good thing to watch for in preseason to see how coachable he can be. 2 great tough contested catches in a row. He's going to get on the field early for his blocking. He does have some speed, was at a complete standstill waiting for the ball, and still outran the safety to the end zone. So this play against Syracuse, you'll see on Harmon's highlight tapes, if that's all you've seen of him. But he's wide open, has to sit there and wait for the ball from Finley. While he's doing that, the safety is running towards him, and from a complete stop, Harmon has the burst and the speed and the awareness to take a good angle across the field and create a edge, but created an angle for himself to beat that safety who already was running to the end zone. So when people say he's not fast or he doesn't have speed, and N'Keal Harry ran a 4.53, he ran a 4.60, and there's really not a huge difference between that. There really isn't, especially when you remember that most of the times at the combine have a human element of timing and can pretty much be thrown out. They're a good barometer, but it's 6 inaccurate tests on a specific day where there could be all sorts of reasons that guys didn't run their best that day. Now I know it sounds like I'm giving excuses to Harmon, but I'm just trying to explain why that combine is not as bad as everyone is saying it is. Him going in the 6th round is pretty concerning, but people have so much recency bias and they forget that the NFL draft is wrong every single year about every single position, and they value completely different things than I do. I do not fucking care that the NFL wants potential and upside and they're looking for elite players one day. I need production on my team, and in the late 2nd, late 3rd of rookie drafts, I can get Kelvin Harmon, who's got a good chance to put up production in his first year. I don't get points for combine performance on my fantasy team in the fall. I don't get points for which round he was drafted in on my team in the fall. Doesn't take plays off even when he's a decoy. Love that. The dude is just a football player. High praise, in my opinion. Tough. High praise, in my opinion. Knows where the hole in the zone is and sits down. Good body lean. Physical through the tackle to pick up extra yards. Phenomenal hands. So Harmon is showing high football IQ, high effort, high technical knowledge, great body control, all the things that you want in a wide receiver at the NFL level, including blocking on a team that lacks good blockers at wide receiver, and a team that's probably trying to run the football behind their offensive line with who they have at quarterback and all the uncertainty they have at quarterback. He just has something that no other receiver currently there has or can even physically offer. So I do not care that he was a 6th-round pick. Do not care about the combine. I'm aware of it. I'm not picking Kelvin Harmon in the 1st round, but he's not going in the 1st round. Typically, he's going late 2nd to the early 4th. I got no problem taking a shot on Harmon because of his film pretty much anywhere in that range. He's got just as much potential to put up yards year 1 as anyone else going in that range. The last game watched was against Virginia. Crisp routes at the proper depth, so a lot of guys break too early. We talked about that with Hunter Renfrow threatening the space of the defender. He knows when the defender's space is threatened to then give him the edge on that quick break. Great double move. We've said that multiple times about him. Absolutely amazing finding the hole in the zone during the scramble drill. Great adjustment to a poorly thrown ball while still hand catching, while still protecting himself. Kelvin Harmon is just a football player. He's a great football player. At least he was in college. Will he be one in the NFL? I don't know. No one does. But I do know is that on film, he has every single trait I look for first-year production. He was my number one wide receiver on film for first-year production potential. Now remember, we have to mix that in with what did the NFL draft say about his long-term potential? Well, they said he's a 6th-round pick. That's concerning. It is. But I think that pendulum has swung too far the other way, and people are ignoring the opportunity he has in Washington. Just because he was a 6th-round pick doesn't mean shit. It really doesn't. He's going to be on that field. He's going to show the same things he's already shown on field, and coaches are going to like what they see. Is he going to be a future All-Pro Odell Beckham 1.01? Probably never. But what he can do is provide a reliable target to whoever ends up as the quarterback for the Redskins next year. And when it ends up being Dwayne Haskins, let's just talk about Haskins a little bit right now to help show why I value Harmon even after the draft more than most. Haskins is far more inaccurate than people think. He simply doesn't lead his receivers ever. Not on halfback screens, not on bubble screens. He does it on drags way better than anything else. He's okay on slants. He's horrible at deep balls. Like, he's just pretty inaccurate right now. And a lot of it is due to mechanics. I get it. But I don't see how in 4 or 5 months that's going to change. Maybe it does. But if he can't hit Terry McLaurin in college, I don't know why that's going to change in 1 year in the NFL. Now, I know they have other receivers, but none of them are world beaters. No one is established. They have no established tight end that can stay healthy. There's a very real possibility that Kelvin Harmon leads the Redskins in targets. There just is. He can move the chains for him, find the soft spots in the zone. If Haskins is still inaccurate, he'll be a much larger catch radius than anyone else they have there, except for Doxson. But you throw him the ball 4 times, he's going to get hurt. Kelvin Harmon has gotten more undeserved shit than any wide receiver this year because people overrate 6 fucking drills from January and magically believe every single year for 3 months that the NFL draft is always right. It isn't. Look at the situation. They've got a wide open depth chart. He was my number one receiver on film. The combine hurt? I get it, but it's not anywhere near as bad as people are pretending it is. His agility numbers were fine. He's strong. He does everything you want in a football player, which coaches will love, and leave him on the field for more snaps. When things break down, he's amazing. When the ball's in the air, he's amazing. He's not perfect, but if you're looking for a 2nd or 3rd or 4th round receiver that has a high possibility of producing for you year 1, it's Kelvin Harmon. Alright, I just took an ice bath to cool off a little bit, but some illogical shit just pisses me off, and that's what I feel about Kelvin Harmon. I think he's getting really fucking slept on because everyone, I don't know, just won't admit they're biased or even examine that they're biased. And maybe I'm biased. Maybe I just love blocking and physicality. I sure don't think so. But anyways, next up is Andy Isabella out of the University of Massachusetts. He is 68.75 inches tall, or about 5'9", 188 pounds, with 8.375-inch hands and a 71.5-inch wingspan. He is 22.7 years old, which is average for the class. He's got an average weight divided by height and span divided by height, with a below average hand size divided by height. Isabella also had a very good combine, running a 4.31 40, average 36.5-inch broad jump, an average 36.5-inch vertical, average 121-inch broad jump, average 15 reps on the bench, and then he had good agility drills with an above average 6.95 3-cone and 4.15 20-yard shuttle. The first game of Isabella that I watched was against Georgia. He looks very quick, running a nice 4-yard hitch, where most people would not use good route running technique, he still chose to. Willing blocker, knows how the play is designed. I'm pretty sure he's a football player after only 3 plays. Remember, I don't call very many people a football player or tough. So those 2 things, to me, those are high praise. If you're a football player, if you're tough, that fits a very specific mentality. Amazing speed on his first step. Loads into his first step instead of already being in position, but it's coachable. So Parris Campbell took a false step. Isabella is a little better because he doesn't take a false step, but he still loads, meaning his body is not in perfect position to explode out of his stance. Immediately gets to the sticks on a bubble screen. He wins as a blocker with his shoulder angle and his sticky hands. He really understands where the play is designed to go. So that's showing high football IQ, which I love to see. He couldn't stay on his block against the Georgia defender when it was at the point of attack. He had his hands outside of the body, and he was way too upright. Point of attack just means where the ball is designed to go, so it was most likely an outside run play or a bubble screen where he was the lead blocker. Has great acceleration, agility, and vision as a ball carrier, maybe just above average agility. Well, the combine showed that he has above average agility for sure. He is small. On that note, I did like to see that he is average weight divided by height. Makes it a lot easier for me to not be worried about his injury potential. Body catch on an over route. May have elite acceleration. His get off is unreal. Cut back towards the line of scrimmage on a shallow drag when he should have just cut it upfield. So that means he caught the drag and then turned back towards the inside of the field to kind of get vision on where all the defenders were, instead of just trusting the play design and continuing upfield and then checking where the defenders were. He puts a lot of effort into blocking, but he just is not very big or strong. Weight concerns. So 188 is undersized, but it's not horrible for his style of play. And he did have an average bench, a lot better bench than I thought he would. He has a bad habit of keeping his hands too wide on blocks. I think he'd be much better at blocking if he was coached up on this. He plants off of 1 foot hard in his routes. Good sign. He's not going to break any tackles once contacted. Absolutely toasted a guy on a great square in on 4th down and adjusted to a poorly thrown ball. As we talked about with Butler and Mitchell, I love to see the trust that a team has in that player. So on 4th down, 1, they're throwing it. 2, they're throwing it to a 5'9" or a 5'8" wide receiver. And 3, he's making a ridiculous catch because it was a poorly thrown ball. He broke a tackle. He can catch really well. Sometimes he body catches, sometimes he double catches, but he normally makes the catch. I haven't seen him drop one yet. Just embarrassed a dude from Georgia, running multiple stutters, in and out fakes, and then broke back to the ball, making a catch through contact, and then not fumbling on a pretty good strip attempt. Good catch and run on a flea flicker, got completely behind the defense, ball was underthrown, he had to catch and immediately read the defenders, broke to the right, and even had to cut back in between 2 defenders in order to score the touchdown. Amazing play. If you want to see Isabella's best game, watch his highlights versus Georgia. He's got the speed as well as the acceleration, but these are probably backups at this point in the game, but he's got the speed. Combine definitely backed that up. Against South Florida. Might be the best route runner I've seen so far. Great agility, ideal slot, but he does have long speed. So I would call that kind of a slot plus. You can be a slot plus by being able to go long or being able to consistently break tackles with agility or break tackles with power, which would be a big slot. I'm not saying he can only play in the slot. He can play on the outside as well, but he's just the mold of a slot receiver when you think one up. He can make people miss with agility and stop, start, change of direction, but not with power. Not surprising for 188 pounds. Has great awareness and feel for where the defender will be before they even know. He is a football player. He just got out physicaled, but it might have been pass interference on a go route on the left side. We'll try to maximize yardage. What do we get points for in fantasy? Yards and catches. So knowing that he's going to try to maximize yardage, 1 is going to make you feel good while you're watching him and he's on your team, but 2 will probably help you win. When you're in a close game and it's a Monday night game and your receiver steps out of bounds instead of fighting upfield for 4 more yards, it's frustrating. Will make catches through contact, comes back to the ball at full speed. I don't really think I'm worried that he catches with his body sometimes. So at 188 pounds, he's not scared to make contact catches. He's got high enough football IQ to know that he has to come back to the ball. It's better to catch the ball 1 yard farther than you would want to be than let the defender get a hand on that ball. He shows high football IQ in a lot of areas. He does have flaws, but he's a football player. He's so freaking quick. Stops on a dime. Can hands catch. So Dylan Mitchell can pretty much only body catch. Isabella can hands catch. He prefers to body catch. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, really, because of how little he drops anything. But it's great to see that he can extend his hands and catch the football. Just took a bad angle on a block. Physicality at the line of scrimmage might give him problems, but he is so quick that it's risky. By that I mean risky for the defender, because he could get torched pretty quick. So there are probably going to be plays where he gets out physical, and you'll just have to accept those, because there will be plays where he makes them miss with that initial lunge, that initial jab, and they're not ever going to catch him again. He has the deep speed and has a nose for the end zone. Twice so far, I didn't think there was a way that he was going to be able to get in, but he still did. But again, in this game, it's against backups because it's a blowout, so it's hard to evaluate that when the team is now sent in their second string. He gave up on a few plays, but they're down by 30 with 6 minutes left in the fourth, so I don't know if I'm really going to hold that against him too much. His agility testing is going to be insane, which it was pretty good. I honestly thought it would be better than that. Parris Campbell had better agility than him, but he still had really good agility tests. Showed great sideline awareness. By now, we all know that Isabella is on the Cardinals, and that honestly raises the level of uncertainty for me too high to probably select him in the first. I still might select him in the first just because I love the player, but I've never seen the last place team in the league be given so much leeway by fantasy analysts. Everyone thinks a college coach that didn't really have that good of a college career and couldn't get the most out of Patrick Mahomes is going to turn a 5'7" quarterback with mechanics issues and an out to go play in baseball whenever the going gets tough by a general manager that got arrested for DUI last year and created the worst team in the league with his draft picks and signings. So the good thing is they're probably going to be throwing a lot, but the amount of long-term success there, I mean, in fantasy, I guess you could look at it as maybe you're leaning into thinking that they're going to be bad, so they're going to throw a lot, and Isabella could be the beneficiary. But I just feel like I'm the only one who doesn't expect the Cardinals offense to suddenly be one of the best in the NFL, and I feel like that's where their skill position players are going. Kyler Murray does have issues with his game. A popular opinion out there is that he's the undisputed 1.01 in rookie drafts in Superflex, and I think that's just fucking bananas. Worst team in the league, who they did do some things to their O-line, but it's a brand new O-line with a brand new coach and a GM who just seems to be doing goofy off-the-wall shit. All rookie receivers except for Fitzgerald, who's about to retire, and Christian Kirk, who is good, and a pretty good defense, underrated defense, I should say. Not pretty good, but underrated. It's just a funky team. And there's so many new parts there that it's hard for me to put a real hard and fast value on Isabella. I like the player a lot, so I'd probably be able to overlook the situation a little bit, and Murray can be accurate, but I honestly can't decide where I'd take him. I don't know if I'm comfortable taking him in the first round. I'd probably say he's a late first round for me, early second round. I'd definitely much rather have Parris Campbell because I know the situation unless Luck's shoulder goes out again. But I've just got this big feeling that Kyler Murray wasn't the real number one pick in this draft. I mean, now that's not a crazy thing to say, I don't think, but that seems to be the overwhelming consensus, is that Kyler Murray was, of course he was the number one pick. If I was starting an NFL team, I'd rather have Drew Lock, and it's not even a question. It's not even close. Even if Murray didn't have the possibility of going back to baseball, which he does at any fucking point in time. None of these other players have that on the table. This is their only shot at making millions. Murray has the ability to say, oh, well, okay, here, you guys get back your $17 million signing bonus. I'm going to go play for the A's, and they're going to pay me a $12 million signing bonus, but I'm just done with football. I don't like it here. I don't think there's a high chance of that, but there's a chance of that happening. There's not a chance of that happening with Drew Lock that I'm aware of, or Haskins or Jones, and I don't even like Haskins and Jones that much. But the Cardinals are a funky ass place to try to invest a first round pick in my opinion, at any position. I do like Isabella. He's probably going in the first in a lot of drafts, and I really can't say I have a problem with it because I love the player. I just want to try and temper expectations that the Cardinals offense, with, in my opinion, a better quarterback prospect, not for fantasy, but for real life, when a better quarterback prospect couldn't make it work, then the guy fucking hired because he told the general manager how he's going to fix Rosen, then trades Rosen away for ridiculously low value, and is trying to bet against all historical precedents at the quarterback position in his first year as a head coach with Kyler Murray's physical stature and play style. It could work out. I could look absolutely idiotic in a few years. After recording this entire fucking episode with the wrong microphone, yeah, maybe I'm an idiot. But all I try to do is reduce uncertainty. There's a ton of uncertainty in Arizona. So Isabella is really like the player, just not sure what that situation is going to look like with all the uncertainty, all the receivers, the O-line changes, the coaching changes, the quarterback changes, the funky stuff of the general manager, all that jazz. My next Tier 1 wide receiver was DK Metcalf out of Ole Miss. I'm pretty much just going to go through his measurables. If you want to know what I thought about his situation post-draft, you should look up that episode. I believe it was Daily Dynasty 7 that released last Tuesday on the 7th of May. But he was in my Tier 1 on film pre-draft. 6'3.5-ish, 228 pounds, 9.875 inch mitts, 82.875 inch wingspan, and 21.41 years old, which is the same birth date as Harmon and fairly young for this class. He had an above average weight and span divided by height and an average hand size divided by height. At 228 pounds, he still ran a 4.33 40-yard dash at the combine, an above average 40.5 inch vertical, 134 inch broad jump, tied for the most in the class with 27 reps on the bench, but he did have those agility concerns, the 7.383 cone at the combine, and followed it up with a 7.25 at his pro day, and in the 20-yard shuttle, he had a 4.5 second time. So just compare him with Harmon real quick just to make a point. Yeah, Metcalf killed him on the 40, right? Beat him by 8 inches on the vert, which is significant. Beat him by 17 in the broad, which is significant. Beat him by 9 in the bench, which is fairly significant, but 18 is still good for Harmon. Harmon beat him in the 3-cone, and he beat him in the 20-yard shuttle. So, I love Metcalf. I know a lot of people love Metcalf. He is a physical freak, but even though he's a physical freak, he's got poor agility. Harmon is not a physical freak, but for 221 pounds, which is similar to Metcalf, those are pretty good agility times. That's a pretty good bench. So again, if you really want to dive deep into DK Metcalf, look at last Tuesday's episode. But I'm going to move on to my last Tier 1 wide receiver, Ridley out of Georgia. Kelvin's brother is 73.25 inches tall, or 6'1", 199 pounds, with 10.25 hands, which are clearly above average, a 78.25 inch wingspan, and is slightly old for the class at 22.81 years old. He has a slightly below average weight divided by height, above average span divided by height, and one of the highest hand size divided by heights in the class. So similar to Harmon, Ridley did not have a very good combine, and especially when you look at the 22-pound weight difference, I would say is clearly a worse combine than Harmon had. He ran a 4.58 40, a below average 30.5 inch vert, which was lower than Harmon's. He did better in the broad jump with a slightly above average 124 inch broad jump. He had an average to slightly below average 13 reps on the bench, a below average 3-cone at 7.22 seconds, and an average 20-yard shuttle at 4.28 seconds. So I know Harmon and Ridley both lost the most steam based on their combine numbers. I understand. But the pre-draft film watching is not to say these are going to be the best players in the NFL in this order. It's to say which of these receivers have the widest set of skills that are immediately transferable to an NFL field week 1 if they played today. Ridley definitely deserves to be in Tier 1 based on that criteria. He was also picked far earlier than Harmon, which I found surprising. He had, by pretty much all standards, a worse combine than Harmon, yet went 2 rounds above him. He's also in a much more crowded depth chart for targets. But anyways, the film. Not sure who I had his first game against. Looks like I must have cut that off somehow. Great slant route, faking to the outside with a hard plant in. Ball just went right through his hands. Easy catch dropped. That to me is the most concerning thing about Ridley, is that he does show some just inexplicable drops at times, when most of the time they're pretty darn good. He will block guys bigger than him. He's tough. He stops on a dime in his hitch route. So far, I love 2 of his routes, his slant and his hitch route, which are, as you know, very common in the NFL. Can read the zone defenses, knows where the sticks are, has at least above average acceleration. Would like to see him drive back to the quarterback a little more on his hitch route, but he did already have separation. Great awareness to realize he wasn't down yet. So everyone on the field thought he was down, but he knew he wasn't, showing high football IQ and got about another 20 yards. He's competing every snap. You want to tell me Riley Ridley isn't ready to play in the NFL week 1? It's possible. Show me the receivers that compete every single snap that aren't named Kelvin Harmon, Riley Ridley, Andy Isabella. Even Andy Isabella took some plays off. So really, Kelvin Harmon, Riley Ridley. When they're on the field, they're going to fucking play. They're going to compete. Do they have perfect athletic profiles? No. But those don't matter once you're playing a game of football. He runs a great release into a great hitch route with a great hands catch. So he's not just showing 1 or 2 technical skills on a play, but then failing on one, like with Dillon Mitchell. He's a very good example for a lot of things. He really is, because he has some things that are borderline elite, but he just hasn't put it all together yet. Kind of with Metcalf Hardman. Metcalf Hardman is more inconsistency and clearly not even knowing what he doesn't know. He doesn't know he's supposed to run a route this way. Dillon Mitchell does know he's supposed to run a route this way, but then he gets lost. Riley Ridley completely understands what he's supposed to do and executes it together. And I know I'm sounding emotional about these guys, and I am, but I'm not watching film right now. When I watch the film, complete dispassion, analyze, I'm a scientist, this is an experiment, what did they do? 4 months later, when I've heard a bunch of crazy fucking narratives, they just show that the person saying it doesn't know shit about 1, they never even watched the film. 2, they have no fucking clue how to watch the film. Or 3, they just have a bias against that certain player for some unknown reason. Riley Ridley and Kelvin Harmon are going later in your rookie drafts. I'm not saying draft these guys in the first round. I'm saying you don't know who to pick in the 3rd round? You don't know who to pick in the 4th round? I'd be taking the guys that have already shown on film that they're complete wide receivers. Not really complete, but they have a more complete skill set technically than the other receivers in this class. Will block. He was looking back to see where the ball was a little too much during his block, but it's good that he was looking. Seems to get knocked off his route sometimes by physicality. So that's a big difference between him and Harmon, right? Those 22 pounds matter. Those reps on the bench matter. Harmon, you can try to push him, he's going to push you right back. You can do the same with Ridley, but you're going to be a little more effective since he's under 200 pounds than with a guy that outweighs the corner by probably 20 to 30 pounds. He's not going to be pushed off his route as often with physicality as Ridley. Against LSU, first note, watch Elijah Holyfield number 13. Okay, I'm going to pause and talk about Elijah motherfucking Holyfield. If Christian McCaffrey goes down, I have not watched Jordan Scarlett yet. I need to, but I highly doubt he beats where I had Elijah Holyfield on film. Let's just say my running back ranks pre-draft are very controversial to a lot of you, but I had Elijah Holyfield 1 spot over Josh Jacobs pre-draft. Just on film on how good they are at playing the position of running back. I get he ran a 4.78. I get Josh Jacobs projects better long-term in the NFL, is a better pass catcher, catches downfield. I understand all of that. But Elijah Holyfield will fucking truck you, and he has great feet. He's got great burst. Elijah Holyfield is getting slept on so hard right now. Christian McCaffrey does look durable, so it's hard for me to recommend getting him. I mean, over the summer, I'm going to have a bunch of opportunities to break down all these players, but just if you've got a deep bench, if you've got Christian McCaffrey and you don't like Scarlett, Elijah Holyfield is going to find a role on an NFL team. Just not really a question to me. His father is a world champion heavyweight boxer. That shit isn't just going to not be valuable to a guy trying to start his professional career. He's got flaws like everyone, but man, love me Elijah Holyfield. Wish I had the room to pick him up in a lot of my leagues, but I haven't seen Scarlett yet, so I can't pick him up until I've scouted Scarlett to see if he beats Elijah. Okay, anyways, back to Ridley. Uses finesse releases more than physicality. Far more than physicality. Has good to above average long speed, but not elite. So 4.58, that's looking like kind of a miss from me. But there are people, a lot of people, especially when they're football players, who are better at running on a field than they are on a track while getting timed. He knows how to run routes, but he might not be a physical specimen. I think most people will agree with me on that. Great adjustment and hand catch to a poorly thrown back shoulder. Great post route, the kid can run routes. Against Missouri, smart blocker. Can't tell if that was him adjusting to the zone or if it was a designed route. He's a football player. Now, I don't really know how to define tough or a football player in technical terms, but just know I don't say that about many of these guys. I'll have to go back and look through all my notes over the summer and see which of my guys I labeled tough and a football player, but I don't give that out very often. Great route, great hands catch, great sideline awareness. Great body control and awareness. High point on the sidelines with a hands catch. Against Kentucky, willing blocker, smart blocker, understands the play design. Can adjust to the poorly thrown balls even when low. Can push off-balance defenders using physicality and a stiff arm. Against South Carolina, more of the same. Against Alabama 2017, found the soft spot in the zone, has good releases, but is not as good of a blocker as he was in 2018. Overall, I did not see enough press man against him, but I think he would do pretty good against it with his physicality and good releases. He runs great routes. I think he might sneak up into my tier 1. It turned out he did. So, for the 97th time, I know most of you wouldn't be listening if you didn't agree with me on a bunch of the shit I say. I don't think I've cussed more than in this episode. But that's because Kelvin Harmon and Ridley have high potential to produce early because they have more skills overall. Like if you counted off their skills, they've got more of those on film than most of all the other receivers in this class. Their athletic testing is not the best in this class, and that's clearly what the NFL values when they're making draft picks. But remember, recency bias is real. I think we're only, two weeks removed from the NFL draft, and everyone who's a first-year player, or even a lot of experienced players, forget that the NFL draft gets it wrong every year. And this year is honestly the hardest year I've seen so far for projecting where these guys are going to go in the draft and projecting which guys are going to hit and not. I think this class is going to be littered with busts in Dynasty. Littered. First round, second round, third round, fourth round of your rookie drafts. I think most players this year are going to be busts. When in doubt, I'd be taking a tight end. There's a lot of good tight ends in this class. If you have any inkling of needing a tight end sometime in the next few years, I'd be snagging one up this year. I think these guys are a lot safer long-term projection than a lot of the wide receivers. I think the running backs are the weakest class of running backs I've ever seen. Ever. I don't think there's going to be a lot of long-term potential here, even with the high draft picks that people are used to. People have been spoiled the last couple of years. If you've only been doing Dynasty a couple of years, this is not the caliber of running back that you're used to seeing. I just told you I had Elijah Holyfield over Josh Jacobs. I did. I had a lot of other players, running backs, over Josh Jacobs as well. Just from an on the film, what skills do they have now standpoint. Let's just say I am fucking ecstatic that the Raiders drafted Josh Jacobs in the first round. Shit year for running backs, unless Josh Jacobs shows things that he has not shown yet, which he could. They clearly draft for upside in projection in the NFL, but he didn't have great testing numbers either. Fucking love that the Raiders took Josh Jacobs. Fucking love it. I would not take any running back in the first round this year in my rookie drafts. I just fucking wouldn't. I get the production argument. I get that there's opportunity. I'd trade down. I couldn't do it. There's going to be too many good running backs coming out next year and probably the year after. I just think this is a bad year. My two top guys both have injury concerns. Another one of my tier 1 guys got stuck behind my other tier 1 guy, and they're both behind Joe Mixon. My only running back I really like that didn't land in a shit situation is Ozigbo. And I'm pretty pumped about that one. I'm pretty excited for Ozigbo. Like, if I had to plant my fucking flag down on one player, it's probably Ozigbo. He's just fucking good. Like, I don't know if he's ever going to get the chance. If Kamara and Murray stay healthy, maybe he doesn't. But he's a third on that depth chart. He's fucking good. He just is. He's a complete back. He's ready to produce right now. He is a great line and quarterback and everything. Ozigbo's getting slept on hard. I'm not sure who I'm going to do tomorrow. Maybe I'll even do a Zigbo, but there'll be no advice today. I pretty much did enough rants today to probably satisfy all of your needs. You know what I'm talking about. I'll figure it out tomorrow. Or I guess what day would that be? Tuesday. So on Monday, I'll figure out, probably by the time I post on Reddit, who the Tuesday's episode will be over. I know I've been going over a lot of receivers, but wide receivers are interesting to me. They're hard to nail down. They're very diverse. You can talk about a lot of football aspects just with them. But I will move more into the tight ends and quarterbacks and running backs as we keep going forward. But anyways, hope you enjoyed the Tier 1 pre-draft wide receiver breakdowns. As always, you've been listening to Dynasty 365, where the film will set you free.
to try what I to feel. I kill the bill, take your life in a second. The devil drinks coffee in my kitchen, I mentioned eating every song, I just wanted to go away. You decide to stay in the well. I want to be forgiven, I don't like this kid for money. Sorry I was scared, you're not the way it feels. Like to sleep waiting for someone to come in and kill you. The final thing is that now we're not friends of anything. Go they gonna kill anyone that feels so powerful. They trip by you every your skin of everything is confusing. You will be good but you will be more. You will be good but you will be more.